Hey guys, and welcome to a Star Citizen-esque based video. I mean, we're going to be talking about some Nvidia graphics cards today. Basically, I've had the opportunity to test SLI 980s and the new 980 Ti, and I'm exceptionally impressed with the 980 Ti. It is so much better than the Titan X, basically just because it's so much cheaper and the performance levels are almost the same. It's a beautiful, beautiful card, the Ti. And I want to talk about some different setups that you can have. Are you a gamer like me that's happy to play in 1080p, but you want high frames? Because I want 144 frames while I'm playing Star Citizen, really, so that I can match the refresh rate on my monitor. Some people want 4K setups, they want 30 frames, they only want 60 frames. So we're going to talk about the different setups, a little bit about DirectX 12 and what that's going to mean for Star Citizen, and what that's going to mean for some graphics card setups. And is it worth buying a card now? Should you upgrade your setup? Is it worth getting SLI 980s over a single Ti? Is it worth in any situation buying a Titan X? That sort of thing. So without further ado, let's talk about some cards. So we've got the Titan X, which is an $1,100 card, or around £850 if you're from the UK. The 980 Ti, which is around $660 or £560. A single 980 GTX, which is currently $520, just under 400 quid in the UK. And we'll also probably be talking about dual GTX 980 setups in SLI, which again would be double that, so $1,040 or a bit under £800, but still more affordable than a Titan X. So the Titan X and the 980 Ti cards get extremely similar performance across the board, really, but the 980 Ti is significantly cheaper. There is little reason to want a Titan X over a 980 Ti unless literally money is no object and you're trying to make some sort of supreme 4K gaming rig for today that you want to play games with for today. Typically in 3D Mark Extreme First Strike, which is what I'll be doing all of my benchmarks in when I refer to 3D Mark now, it'll be Extreme First Strike. I'd get scores of around 7,000-ish with my rig, and you can see what my test rig is in the description below in the 980 Ti, so that's around 7,000, and with the Titan X I'm only getting a little bit more. I'm getting 7,350-ish with each of the tests. Yes, the Titan X does have 12 gigabytes of VRAM and the 980 Ti only 6 gigs, but 6 gigs is kind of enough at the moment in 1080p and might be enough for your 4K needs currently. The Ti model has significant gains over the GTX too. In my setup, the GTX will get around 5,400 3D marks in my benchmark. That's an increase of 1,600 3D marks on the Ti. Ti has got 7,000-ish. That's a vast improvement, that's 30%. But the move from 4 gigabytes to 6 gigabytes from the GTX to the Ti here is actually extremely useful in the amount of VRAM, especially with games like GTA Online and even Star Citizen currently, which does munch up VRAM even on high settings in 1080p. The Ti isn't much more expensive than the GTX either though. For me, getting a 980 Ti is an obvious choice. It's an amazing card and worth every penny. But what if you already have a 980 GTX? Is it worth getting another one to get SLI? Or should you sell your 980 and buy a 980 Ti? Or is it worth getting two 980 Ti's and SLI? Well, two 980 GTXs actually work pretty damn well, giving me scores of around 9,100-ish in my 3D Mark benchmark, and it is more affordable than a single Titan X. It's worth noting that for SLI and Crossfire there's some issues currently. So VRAM doesn't stack on Crossfire and SLI, meaning that although you may have 8 gigabytes between your two cards, 4 gigabytes on each in your SLI setup, you're only using the VRAM from one of them. Also, alternative frame rendering can cause issues like micro stuttering and might not be the most efficient process. This is basically where in your SLI Crossfire setup, each frame is rendered one after the other alternatively by the cards, and then they stack them. This, however, will be changing with DirectX 12 with compatible cards and games, making SLI cards much better for frame rendering in the form of split frame rendering, and VRAM will be stacking. It will kind of treat SLI setups as a single card, as a single GPU. And if it works well, this is great news. Unfortunately, I don't have a second TI to test SLI on, but people with similar setups to mine are reporting over 12,000 in my 3D Mark test. So that's pretty awesome. What does this all mean though in terms of Star Citizen? When should I grab a new card? What do I need to be getting these cards for? Do I need an SLI setup at all? Well, you need to ask yourself some questions. Do you want to be running Star Citizen and games in 1080p in ultra graphics mode? Are you going to go for a 4K setup? Or do you just want to play Star Citizen on a budget? If you have a reasonable graphics card, like the 970 GTX or even an AMD 290X, you don't need upgrades at the moment. But if you want to run games, the modern games and Star Citizen pretty as they were supposed to be, as they're intended to be seen, then you're going to need a powerful card and a good amount of VRAM, and possibly SLI and Crossfire setups for 4K. If you want a single card solution and you're going to be playing at 1920 by 1080, then go for the 980 Ti graphics card. It is amazing, though I doubt it will be enough for 4K Star Citizen gamers that want to be running at relatively good graphics. But for 1080p, you're going to be able to get pretty good settings. You're going to be able to get high or possibly even ultra at quite high frame rates, and that's what you want. You want over 60 frames. You want to try and get your monitor's refresh rate in frames. So if you've only got a 60 Hz monitor, 60 frames is kind of enough. If you've got a 144 Hz monitor like I have, I'm very much a frames man. I don't mind playing in 1080p over 4K, but I want those frames. I want to look at silk. I don't care if it's super photo quality. I like the smoothness. If you want to go 4K, well, SLI is a very viable option now. Especially with DirectX 12 just around the corner, Star Citizen is basically going to be extremely scalable graphically, but incredibly hungry at higher settings, especially for 4K resolution users. And it's going to be really VRAM hungry too. Nom nom. VHAM? Is that what you eat? Nom 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 nom. We're also likely to see the new generation of cards around January 2016, so relatively soon, 6 months-ish. And with DirectX 12 round the corner as well, making everything look a bit nicer too, it might be worth holding off. If you're not desperately trying to play Star Citizen now, if you're not a hard regular gamer now, then it might be worth waiting. But if you are playing games like GTA Online on the highest super res settings, or Battlefield Hardline, you want everything to look gorgeous, it's definitely worth considering the Nvidia options. So if you already have a 980 GTX and you don't want to sell it, and you want to go 4K, consider picking up another one for SLI. They're going to be quite cheap in the shops and eBay once the TI is out in full swing, so maybe end of July-ish. SLI is going to be a very good option very soon. A very good choice for the near future for 4K users. That being said, for 4K, I actually think the 980 Ti is the first card that can handle 4K relatively well as a single card solution. Now, when I say relatively well, if I wanted to play Star Citizen 1 in the future, I'd be aiming at around 30 frames per second at getting relatively good graphics settings on 4K with it. So, I mean, keep that in mind. Do you want more frames? Do you not? Do you care? What kind of gamer are you? Also, those considering more budget options like a 970 or even the AMD X290, they both get around 4,700 in my benchmark as single cards. They're very comparable cards. They're very good, the 970 and the X290. They get about the same. They will certainly play Star Citizen, and you'll probably be okay to get a relatively good SLI or Crossfire build if you wanted to build with two of those cards. But if you want to play Star Citizen as intended and not on low or medium settings, you're going to need to upgrade before release. In some previous videos, I've already looked at the 290X and the 295X2, and they get some reasonably good performance, and I'm really looking forward to the new AMD cards. I really think they're going to kind of bring it. So we will be looking at more AMD setups, we will be looking at AMD cards later. This is just Nvidia based stuff. So you want a new card, like the 980 Ti or a second GTX, when should you buy? Well, they're only going to get cheaper, and if you're heavily gaming now, then I'd still wait a little while, probably until the end of July. There's likely to be sales on the TIs, and the price of the GTX will come down to be more competitive, and there's going to be an influx of 980 GTXs on eBay from people upgrading to the TIs. There's always someone having a sale, so shop around. So why haven't I done a Star Citizen benchmark for these cards? Well, There's actually a few reasons, and I'll give you some total disclosure. The Titan X, I couldn't get working. It kept on crashing. I don't know why. I have no clue why. It's obviously some setting or some driver that my setup just didn't like. The 980 Ti and GTXs ran almost identically on the benchmark. Now, I think they might have actually capped out in the settings. I'm not sure why this is either. 1.1.3 for Star Citizen is not the most stable patch. It is not the best version of Star Citizen Alpha they've done. And I will revise these. I have to try and get my hands back on a Titan X at the time, but when Star Marine comes out, hopefully the stuff will be more stable there. We can get some proper benchmarks and get some benchmarks that the community will go, that's a semi-official Star Citizen benchmark. Because that's what I'm after. I'm after something that other people can look at and benchmark it on their own systems too. Anyway, I sound like a total Nvidia fanboy now, and I suppose the TI has made me a bit sweet on them, but I am, at my core, a value performance gamer. I like high-end stuff cheap, and hopefully the next generation of AMD cards are really going to bring that, especially with DirectX 12 and Star Citizen. We're going to see lots of odd builds with, I mean, you might even be able to combine Nvidia and AMD cards. I mean, the technology with that DirectX 12 kind of should be there. I mean, there's going to be massive compatibility issues, but I mean, in theory, it could work. But you're going to see loads of budget AMD cards stuck together. I mean, we might say giant rigs full of 295 X2s, right? So like 3 of them in a PC, so that would be 6 GPUs. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for listening to my rant. I'm sorry if I do waffle on about some stuff. I just really wanted to talk about the 980 Ti because I'm so glad I didn't buy a Titan X. I was going to buy one. I was just going, gosh, shall I get one? Shall I not? The Ti is just almost the same level of performance. I'm really excited about DirectX 12 and what that can mean for gaming and multi-GPU setups that will actually work, that I can record and stuff will look good and there's less problems. Well, that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping for the best. And that's what we all live on with Star Citizen. We've all spent a lot of money on ships and we're all living on a bit of hope that the game's going to be great. But I'm sure it will be. Thank you so much for all my viewers and subscribers for making these kind of videos possible. I know they're not entirely technical, but I like to rant and I like to say, get this, because I'm an opinionated person. So get yourself a TI. I mean, sell the other stuff. Sell a kidney. Sell a kidney and buy 2. Hooray! Actually, just buy Titans if you're going to sell a kidney, because you'll have loads of spare money. Anyway, take care, guys. I'll see you in the verse.